Hey everybody, welcome back to the Boston-Raleigh channel. Sorry for the week off. We had stuff we need to take care of in our Boston-Raleigh lives, or well, we being an unrealistic pretense. I had car problems, but I'm back now. I can afford to spend time actually doing fun stuff and more pertinent things like the American Revolutionary War. We got episode 4 here. Last time, tensions were rising. The militias were getting ready to fight each other. Here's where all the battles begin, kind of. Let's get into it. I'm looking forward to it. I know you're all looking forward to it. Let's go. Stand your ground. Don't fire unless fired upon. But if they mean to have a war, let it begin here. Captain John Parker on Lexington Common.
19th of April.
Yep.
1775.
Ooh.
Boston. Around midnight, 700 British infantry, drawn from elite grenadier and light infantry companies.
Numbers! I like numbers. We got Francis Smith apparently commanding a total of 735. So, see, this is what I like to say about a lot of these things, too. Not all conflicts are created equal. There's, like, no people fighting in this war compared to literally anything else. Anything we're familiar with 250 years later, the kind of warfare we engage in on the occasional whim involves like several thousand men. This is several hundred men. 11 grenadier companies, 385. 10 light infantry companies, 350. Not a lot of people. Less than 750 people. Very small army. But it's a big deal for back then. But it's a small army for now. This country back then had like 5 million people as its population, as opposed to about 350 that it does today. So keep all that in mind.
Cross Boston Harbor in boats and begin their march to Concord. They are led by 51-year-old Colonel Francis Smith,
Ooh.
who's been stationed in America for 8 years.
I think at the time Britain also had, like, because this is the British Army, I believe there was also about 5 to 10 million. I'm not quite sure. Britain's population really hasn't exploded the same way that ours has in that time period, but yeah.
His operation is supposed to be secret. The route has been carefully planned, and British scouts and spies patrol the countryside. But the Patriots have their own spy network in Boston. And before the British have even left the city, several Patriot horsemen, including Paul Revere, have ridden out to raise the alarm across eastern Massachusetts.
The Ride of Paul Revere! I mean, I think most of you guys are familiar with this story, at least somewhat. The man, Paul Revere, riding across Massachusetts saying that the British are coming. That's kind of an iconic thing. It's sort of so, like, a lot of things are very static in nature. You have people talking about governance and different ideas about revolution. And then the British are coming was very practical. It was very pragmatic. It was very in the moment. And it's also very sad. So it's not necessarily my favorite because it's a little bit, it's sad but glorious in a way. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
In Lexington, militia captain John Parker is alerted to the approaching British column.
Ooh. Battle time? We're gonna get a battle map. Having seen a little bit of the Napoleonic stuff, the battle maps are really cool. I like this.
He gathers 80 militiamen on the village green to observe their advance.
This is in Lexington. I love how also in this town, you have a triangle, which New England has a ton of these triangular structured areas. But you also, and you have triangular forked roads primarily here too. But in this town, you have the graveyard is the only thing that is shown because it's so massive. And all these other buildings are just small little, like, some of these are probably houses and cottages, but some of them are probably other things too. There's just, like, small towns in New England. It's kind of wild. And that huge-ass graveyard, too, just because there's a ton of people, and they've been there for over 100 years now, over 150 years at that point.
Around dawn, at 5 a.m., the head of the British column arrives.
Ooh.
Redcoat officers order the militiamen to lay down their arms. Shouts and jeers are traded. Then a shot rings out. From which side is not clear. The British regulars fire a flurry of shots. The militia run for cover.
A lot of people make a big deal of the shot heard around the world. I kind of like how he didn't, because that's just kind of a symbol. It's not even really a symbolic thing. It's just no one knows who fired first, but here's where the fighting started.
8 lie dead or dying.
No.
Just one British soldier is wounded. This small skirmish, lasting just a few minutes, is the first clash of the American Revolutionary War.
It is really cool to have that be the emphasis and not the shot. I like some of the iconography, but I feel like that's just the lame thing to focus on, is the bullet. Whoever fired first. Did it really matter? The tensions were already there. Whoever shot first, it just happened to be the first. And what was definitely coming, and what was definitely going to happen. Hold your fire until you see the whites of their eyes is a more, like, it's a cooler quote, at the very least, than shot heard around the world. Like, I actually like the Schoolhouse Rock song based on that. It's just that in and of itself doesn't seem very symbolic to me. At least not in a meaningful way that, like, half a dozen other things in this one video we're covering. So I like the skirmish being the emphasis of that point.
The British march on to Concord.
Concord,
but the
Massachusetts.
element of surprise they'd been counting on was lost hours ago. On arrival, the British discover most of the Patriot stores have been hidden or removed. They spread out across town to destroy what they can find. Meanwhile, a large militia force gathers to the north, on a hill overlooking the town. They include several companies of the famous Minutemen, picked men from local settlements, ready to march at a minute's notice.
This is a Minutemen in the militia. This is a big part of what, in any real context, the right to keep and bear arms is very important, but this is a big part of what the Second Amendment entails. And I think that people kind of, maybe they don't downplay it, but it's just not nearly as important in day-to-day constitutional arguments. But this is a big reason why you have Second Amendment, is because you need to be able to organize a military, or a militia, rather, in this case, to combat things. And there's actually been interesting little times in American history where that's been done to push back against tyranny in a local level.
400 strong, they outnumber the British detachment guarding North Bridge 4-1. The militia are agitated. There are rumors of a massacre at Lexington. They can see smoke rising from Concord. Under pressure from his men to act, Militia Colonel James Barrett orders an advance to the bridge. Both sides have orders not to fire first.
Yeah.
But alarmed by the approaching militia, the British fire a ragged volley. The militia return fire. A handful of men fall killed and wounded on each side.
As we're seeing, very few people are actually dying in these conflicts. That's not to downplay the importance, but geez, I just can't help but notice in 1700 how few people died in the Revolutionary War. Or it's the late, almost 1800. The late 1700s, 1770s. Not a lot of people dying 250 years ago in a conflict where you could have easily seen higher mass casualties. The American Civil War completely blows this out of the water, by far. And you just have so many of these different conflicts. There's so much built into it that's symbolic, that's enigmatic of the nation, that you can't get across with how little casualties there are.
The outnumbered redcoats turn and run. The militia, stunned by their own success, do not pursue. A standoff resumes, but now with bodies from both sides strewn across the battleground. The British commander, Colonel Smith, recognizes how exposed his force is, and around noon he orders his men to march back to Boston.
That's such a very important strategic thing. I mean, this is what the whole idea of this war, from a military perspective, that you're going to see is that it costs Britain a lot to do this because it's projection across the ocean. That's all these men who are stationed overseas. When the American military today can easily do this in a way that Britain absolutely cannot afford to. This is a lot of money they're spending, and their citizens are not happy. Much like ours, get very unhappy with certain things. But this is so much bigger of a deal that the bodies are being wasted. And it's not even a lot, but it's really expensive. Thinking about what that actually entails, this is something very similar where Britain just doesn't want to do this. But them not pursuing this a little bit harder, them not doing just a little bit better in the conflict, that really sets up the monarchy for complete and total failure later on. And you see, as many people have pointed out, the last time the monarchy was relevant was during this war. Because after that point, it was such a dramatic failure that even though Britain ballooned in size, the United Kingdom's scope got way bigger, especially with the acquisition of India, with all the different places that they ended up being in and populating. This is really it. These are the little conflicts that have very, very big consequences. So it's funny to me when I hear people talk about foreign policy and they diminutize these minor things, noting how expensive they are. But like, come on now. This is the big one. This was for all the marbles, really. This kind of stuff. And it's a few men dying here and there. It's kind of insane when you really think about it.
This time, thousands of Patriot militia are lining the road. They mount a series of ambushes on the British, targeting officers, several of whom are killed and wounded. The British respond by bursting into homes along the route to clear out rebel marksmen, bayoneting anyone they find within.
That's a little bit cruel, especially by that era European war standards were very gentlemanly. This was pretty oppressive. And I think this is actually part of what makes this war so enigmatic is that the British were not entirely blameless in how this turned out. Obviously, you're going to do the best you can, given that you're trying to occupy a country. You're not going to care as much about their citizens, but they're your citizens, right? Like, if you're Britain from this perspective, you're just going around killing random rural folks, kind of like small town rural people, like someone in the home, adult male, stab. Like, that's the mentality here. And this really turns people against Britain, especially from the States. They have a ton of loyalists, but those get peeled off so quickly. I definitely would watch The Patriot, the movie The Patriot. Very good illustration of this.
The British march descends into a shambolic retreat. Around 2 p.m., Smith's force reaches Lexington. Here, they are met by reinforcements from Boston, Lord Percy's brigade, 1,000 strong, with 2 cannon.
That is such a small army. Such a small army. 1,200 men and 2 guns. Well, by guns they mean heavy guns. So those are the cannons. But like, because they all have muskets. But it's wild. It is wild to see. And this is this is a huge conflict in the war. Like, this is a more consequential battle here still with a lot of people, and it's not a lot of people, so it's kind of wild to see.
They face nearly 4,000 Patriot militia.
And what's even wilder is that somehow Massachusetts was able to put together 4,000 men to do all this. And it's hard because Americans were not as well equipped militarily at this point. For Massachusetts to have to dedicate all of that, it's a lot. And it's a lot of men, and they're going to lose probably more men than the British in a lot of these conflicts because, you know, you're looking at an army that just can't. They're all volunteers, kind of. I mean, a lot of the people in the Revolutionary War do get paid, sort of, but like it's pretty much just because we're under attack, we need you. Not, you have an excellently handsome paying job with great benefits, but we're going to have to put you at risk. This is something a little bit more enigmatically patriotic than what you see in somewhere like Virginia.
Percy's 2 guns open fire, dispersing the militia and buying the British some time before the retreat continues.
And by Virginia, I mean Virginia of the 2000s, not of the 19... The Virginians back then were something else. They were amazing.
Lord Percy oversees a more disciplined fighting retreat, but militia sniping claims a steady toll of his men. As the embattled redcoats approach Boston, they veer east to avoid another large militia force gathering at Cambridge. They reach the safety of Charlestown around nightfall. Many British soldiers have been marching and fighting without rest for almost 24 hours. All told, the British have lost 73 men killed and 173 wounded.
I'm going to go on ahead and assume that the Massachusetts casualties are probably going to be double to triple.
The Americans, 49 killed.
Oh, okay. No, that's actually pretty good.
39 wounded.
See, I'm not perfect on all these numbers. So I was thinking like it would be a little bit more costly, but again, this is where you see like the British should have had way more casualties on the Americans than the Americans had on the British, like that they inflicted. The fact that it's less on the American side here, that's indicative. It's indicative that they're kind of overrun currently. And then it again, reinforce, you got to keep upping the army again if you're going to just project that power. And again, if America was truly really fractured about this, if no one was peeled off, if you just had a ton of loyalists, and only really like, because it's not like it's entirely revolutionaries. It's not like the entirety of America's patriots at this point, but it's almost an even split in some ways. It's like maybe in thirds where you have people in the middle, and if you push people in the middle to one side or the other, that really changes things. I'm not saying that I could necessarily critique the British tactics here, but given how oppressive they were and felt like they could be, now this is the American spirit that they're going up against. It's really hard to say back then, to tell British people who are just subjects to a monarch, like, obviously you just do what you're told, but this is a very different kind of country. It's a very, very different kind of people.
It was nearly much worse for the British. As Lord Percy later writes of his rescue of Smith's force,
I had the happiness of saving them from inevitable destruction.
Of their opponents, he adds,
that's such a glass half full. that's such a good way of putting it.
Whoever dares to look upon them as an irregular mob will find himself much mistaken. They have men
That's very true.
amongst them who know very well what they are about.
Right.
by the scale of 18th century warfare, the battles of Lexington and Concord are not much more than skirmishes. But the ramifications will be seismic.
Ooh. I feel great distress from a conscious... Oh, God. I feel great distress from a consciousness that my abilities and my military experience may not be equal to the existence and important trust, or the extensive and important trust. So Washington being a little humble here. George Washington accepting command of the Continental Army. You would think so, wouldn't you? But sometimes the right people rise to the right occasion. And Washington was not like the definitive commander of all forces until he was made so. I mean, later on, him being the president is much more like that, where he's the obvious choice, but he's just a guy in a war, right? In the French and Indian War, he earned some plaudits, but he was not the definitive like shoo-in, the way that you might see right now in the presidential elections. We kind of have a feeling of who we know the nominees are already, despite it being 3 years out. The extensive
In the aftermath of the fighting, 15,000 militiamen encircle Boston. The British are under siege. Massachusetts is in open rebellion. The news spreads like a shockwave. 3 weeks
Oh yeah, the big map. I love the big map.
later, a Second Continental Congress gathers in Philadelphia. Delegates had expected to be busy coordinating further protests. But suddenly, with the colonies in open conflict with the British, they begin to take on the work of a wartime government.
See, what is kind of amazing, and this is a very American thing, and no other country really had this system yet. The Continental Congress had to respond to the states. They had to respond to Massachusetts, what they were doing. They didn't make it happen. They merely represented the people doing it. That's something very unique to this point in time. 250 years ago, that never happened. You had a lord or a king decide, we're doing this because this is what I decide to do. Massachusetts it accepted a lot of conflict. And in Philly, which is their equivalent of DC at this time, they just had to kind of accept, we're in this now. It's time to get serious. That's something you don't ever see. I mean, you get people dragged into conflicts all the time, but it's more about how that works. You're representative of the people from these states, and not someone to lord over territory. States are not just really big counties. There's something that's meaningful to that.
Congress appoints a committee to secure military supplies.
Yep.
Votes to raise loans to pay for them, and issue bills of credit.
Because, I mean, back in the First Continental Congress, they were trying very desperately to seek peace with Britain. And Britain wouldn't give in. They just wanted a few concessions, and they couldn't get it out of them.
It also passes resolutions to reach out to potential allies in Canada, Britain's Caribbean colonies, and among Native American tribes.
Oh, and this gets very important, especially with the tie-ins from France and Spain later on, but you have, it is foreign diplomacy and foreign policy becomes very, very important sometimes. And if we look at this map, I do want to stress, like, we see the Caribbean here looking like the Caribbean. Look at this Canada map here. You got Quebec, right? It's situated above Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. But Canada at this point stretches into what is very clearly Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, a little bit of Minnesota, a little bit of New York, it looks like. Kind of wild to me that these places, you know, this was all Canada at the point, and it seems like we took over a lot of that based on this war, and that really changes the tide of civilization.
Many delegates are veterans of the First Congress, but there are also new faces.
Yeah, dude, enigmatic people in all of American history. I want to get into it. Let's go.
The celebrated inventor Benjamin Franklin of
Yep.
Pennsylvania, who has returned from England.
Ben Franklin was a fantastic diplomat and got around with women overseas. Kind of insane. He's a Giga Chad.
He is appointed Postmaster General with orders to establish a new postal service.
There we go.
Then there's the wealthy merchant John Hancock of Massachusetts.
Yeah, he's the one whose goods were getting effed with by the British.
And in June, they are joined by the young lawyer Thomas Jefferson of Virginia.
Hell yeah, dude.
But Congress's most urgent priority is to form a united Continental Army that can stand against the inevitable British response. It is obvious that the large militia forces around Boston will be the army's foundation. But who will lead them? For many in Congress, there's only one man for the job. The 43-year-old Virginian delegate, George Washington. He is...
It is worth noting also that you have so many of these people, really, really competent people who did things for a living, used to serve in the delegations, used to serve in Congress. It used to be businessmen, used to be people who excelled in their fields, and now you just have schlubs who are completely useless and waste all our money.
Well known for his patriot views, and admired for his military service in the French and Indian War. As a not-so-subtle reminder of his credentials, the 6'2" Washington attends Congress in his Fairfax militia officer's uniform.
See, this is where he's like, he's ready, even if they're like, who could it be? He's at the ready, right? He was the right person for the right time. And given that he came in military uniform, he knew it might be him, and he knew he would be willing to do it. It's a big deal. I like when we get into oversimplified history, I like their little skit on this part, but it's really kind of like a if the hand of God did not place the right people at the right time, and it's not just Washington, you have other people involved in this, but if that didn't happen correctly, again, history would be very different. You'd have a very different America.
John Adams, who nominates him for command, also believes appointing a Virginian to command New England troops will bolster the colony's unity.
I do love John Adams. So unbelievably underrated. John Adams. Very much like John Adams.
On the 15th of June, 1775, Congress unanimously approves Washington's appointment as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. He agrees to serve without pay, only expenses.
Right.
Yet he...
That's the most based American thing you could ever do. Not just, I'm going to come here, I'm going to serve, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for the things I need, but I'll do it for free. That's kind of amazing. I wouldn't accept it any other way, because honestly, if you're not willing to say that the army owes you for army expenses, then you're a little bit too much of a softie, right? You don't want that guy being the commander-in-chief.
He, like many Americans, is dismayed by the prospect of war.
Unhappy it is that the once happy and peaceful plains of America are either to be drenched with blood or inhabited by a race of slaves. Sad alternatives, but can a virtuous man hesitate in his choice?
For people who don't understand Western civilization or culture, this doesn't seem all that weird, maybe, or rather, it seems very odd and strange. But this is the epitome of manliness and patriotism, the top of the top.
In the tumultuous years ahead, many delegates will question the decision to give Washington command. But ultimately, it will prove one of the best decisions ever made by Congress. The challenge Washington faces is immense. To form a professional army from scratch, with half-trained contingents from disparate colonies, to take on one of the world's most successful military powers.
Right, because again, at the time, Britain was like the world's best, and America was some scrappy dudes put together.
And before Washington can even reach the army, he learns the British have already attacked. If you want to be first to...
Well, we want to be first getting to the end of this video, because I think I've talked long enough, and I think that you should go watch Epic History. I think that their channel's really good, and if you want to hear me do this more, unless this is current, I have a bunch of other videos. I might have more videos than this. For all you know, it could be later on, and you're finding this video like several weeks later, and I have several other episodes of this out. But I'll be reacting to more. We've got like at least 6 more of these. I'll be looking forward to doing all of them. And we're going to be kind of going up until the 4th of July. We have, I think, just enough videos to get through this, actually getting towards the 4th of July. I might be a little bit off by a week or so, but we'll figure it out. Big date, 250th anniversary, coming up in just a couple short months. Definitely be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. I will be doing these a lot more. We're going to have a lot more of the other videos in the week. Gonna be more on this channel. I can guarantee it. Shouldn't be 12 days between videos like the last time. I don't know if we'll ever have... I don't want to say this in all seriousness, but I don't think we'll ever have another 12-day gap, given how much we're planning on doing here. I'm looking forward to doing so much more of these. Epic History is fantastic. Oversimplified, some of the other history channels, also very fantastic. I want to react to more of those. I'm going to be doing a few other things to comment on the goings-on a little bit, probably on Wednesdays. And Monday, Epic History, I got to do this for years. I love some of these videos. I love some of this military stuff. I love some of the like full picture that's done in a way that's not boring, like some old British men recounting a book about the Habsburg dynasty and some old really boring crap. This is excellent. I like making history epic. It not even doesn't have to be specifically fun, but epic is good. Epic is very good. And definitely be sure to watch other videos on my channels. We've got a streaming channel where I do gameplay. We got other stuff. Definitely have the rest of your good week. And I will be back for more Epic History next Monday. Bye-bye.